It was a quiet Saturday, the kind of day where the silence in the house hums just a bit too loudly. I had just finished cleaning out the garage, something I always put off, like dealing with things you know you should face but can't quite bring yourself to. I was halfway into a cup of lukewarm coffee when the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and time stopped. There she stood, a young woman, maybe 20, maybe a few years older. Her features were achingly familiar. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her mouth, the dimple in her left cheek when she smiled. She looked exactly like my wife used to when we first met, back when things were still soft and sincere. Back when I believed in the forever kind of love. "Nice to meet you, Dad." Her voice wasn't timid. It wasn't emotional. It was calm, too calm. And I? My heart didn't just skip a beat. It dropped like a goddamn elevator with a cut cable. I stared at her, not speaking, not blinking, just trying to make sense of a universe that had suddenly split open in front of me. She waited. I'm sorry. What did you say?" I finally stammered. Her smile didn't waver. "I'm your daughter. There's a certain type of cold that sinks into your bones. The kind you can't shake, no matter how many blankets you pile on." That's what I felt. Not from the chill in the air, but from the memory. 22 years ago, my wife, Evelyn, had called me while I was out of state, pitching some no-name software to a desperate investor. She had sounded shaky, devastated. There was a complication, she said. The baby didn't make it. I had cried. I had believed her. Because why wouldn't I? She was the love of my life. Or at least, she was supposed to be. But this girl at my door with my wife's face, my wife's eyes, was very much alive. I stepped aside. "Come in." She walked in like she already knew the layout, pausing just briefly to glance at the family photos on the hallway wall. There weren't many. Evelyn always said she didn't like clutter. "What's your name?" I asked as I closed the door behind her, my hands trembling slightly. "Her name was Emily," she said, still scanning the walls. "But they changed it. I go by Maya now." I blinked. "They." She turned to face me, and there it was, that edge behind her eyes. That quiet storm people carry when they've been broken and remade too many times. "Your wife and her parents," she said. "They told everyone I died. But I didn't. They gave me away." The words hit me like brass knuckles. I had to sit down. My knees couldn't carry the weight of what I was hearing. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Why would she do that? Why lie?" Maya stepped closer, pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag, and handed it to me. It was a birth certificate. The mother's name, Evelyn Grace Holloway. The father's section? Blank. "I spent the first 10 years of my life in a private group home," Maya said, her tone now colder. "Then I bounced through 3 foster families. I only found out who my real mother was when I turned 18 and requested my records. Took me another 2 years to piece it all together. I found your name on a deed tied to this address. That's how I knew where to find you." I looked up at her. My hands clenched around the paper. "So you're saying Evelyn, she lied to me? Lied to everyone? She never lost the baby?" She nodded. "She made sure you wouldn't know." My chest felt like it was caving in. 22 years. 22 years of grief I had carried. For what? A lie? Why? I asked, my voice cracking. "I have a theory," she said. "And I think you'll want to hear it. But not here." She motioned toward the hallway, toward the room Evelyn used as her home office, the one she kept locked. "Whatever she told you, it wasn't just about me. She's hiding more. And I think you already know that, don't you?" That was the moment something inside me shifted. The kind of moment where the ground beneath you doesn't just tremble, it vanishes. And I realized, this wasn't just the story of a lost child found. This was the beginning of the end. Or maybe, just maybe, the beginning of the reckoning. You ever walk past a door in your own house and feel like it's judging you? That was Evelyn's office. Cherrywood, antique brass handle. Locked, always. Said it was for her business. Client confidentiality, she claimed. Which sounded just official enough to quiet the questions, at least back then. But now? With Maya sitting across from me on the living room couch, her legs crossed, her gaze sharper than glass, I saw that door for what it was, a vault for lies. "She keeps the key in her jewelry box," Maya said, not even hesitating. "Bottom drawer. False bottom." That threw me. "How the hell do you know that?" She raised an eyebrow. "Because I've been here before." I froze. "You what?" "Just once," she said. "About 6 months ago. She was out. I didn't have the nerve to knock like I did today. So I watched. Then I waited. And when she left, I let myself in through the garage. You really should check your side door locks." I wasn't sure whether to be horrified or impressed. Maybe both. She said it like she was reading a weather report. Cold. Precise. Like she had already lived the pain, mourned the lie, and now she was just here to settle accounts. I went upstairs without another word. The master bedroom smelled faintly like Evelyn's perfume, rose, and something bitter underneath it. I hated that I could still feel her presence in the sheets, that a part of me still wanted to cling to the version of her that existed before today. I opened the jewelry box, and there it was. False bottom. Small silver key. I walked back down the stairs with it clenched in my fist. Maya stood up when I entered the hallway. Neither of us said a word. I slid the key into the lock and turned. The door opened with a soft click, like a secret sighing its last breath. The room was pristine. Too pristine. Everything was labeled, color-coded, obsessively neat. Evelyn's laptop was closed, her files stacked by date, not subject. A shelf lined with photo albums, but not the kind I'd ever seen before. Maya headed straight for the file cabinet. Middle drawer. Wait, I said. How do you know what's in there? She looked at me over her shoulder. Because last time, I didn't just snoop. I copied what I found. I needed you to see it for yourself. She yanked the drawer open. Inside, thick manila folders. One labeled MY 2003 to 2006. Another, travel log confidential. And the last one that made my skin crawl. Adoption, file closed. Maya handed me a folder, her folder. I opened it. Birth photos. Medical reports. Letters from the group home. Even therapy notes. All under Evelyn's name. All time-stamped during the same week she told me she lost the baby. She kept tabs on me, Maya whispered, her voice suddenly softer. For years. But she never contacted me. Never told you. Just watched from a distance. I didn't know what to say. My mouth was dry. My fingers shook as I held page after page of a childhood I never knew. A daughter I never met. A lie that wore my wife's voice for 2 decades. You still think this ends with just me? Maya asked. I looked up. There's more. I've been digging. You were supposed to stay out of it. That was her plan. But now you're in it. And if you think what she did to me is bad, she pulled out a second folder, slid it across the desk to me. You should see what she did to you. It was labeled, Jackson Bank, 2005 to 2023. My name was on every page. Bank accounts I didn't know existed. Withdrawals I never made. Loans under my name. Forged signatures. All of it. She'd been siphoning off my income for years. Hiding it. Sheltering it under dummy trusts. Some dated back to the year after we lost Maya. I wasn't just lied to. I was robbed. Systematically. Maya looked at me then, really looked at me. She made you think you lost a child so she could erase the proof and take everything. My hands clenched around the folder. I had loved Evelyn. Built a life with her. Trusted her. And she had buried our daughter alive on paper, erased her from my life, and used that silence to drain me like a leech. Something in me hardened. Snapped clean in two. I stood. I need to know everything, I said. Maya nodded. Then you'd better sit down, she said. Because the man she told you was your best friend? He's part of this too. I sat down, folder still in my hands, like it was a bomb I hadn't dared defuse yet. Maya pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward me. A picture. A restaurant patio. Sunlit. Intimate. There she was, Evelyn, in sunglasses and that emerald blouse I bought her for our anniversary. Across from her, leaning in just a little too close, was someone I hadn't seen in over a year. Derek. My oldest friend. Best man at my wedding. The guy who used to help me fix the gutters, drank my beer, and gave the toast that made Evelyn cry. Yeah, that Derek. I stared at the photo, jaw tight. I didn't recognize him at first, Maya said, until I cross-referenced some names on these. She tapped the Jackson Bank file, with corporate ties. Corporate ties? I echoed, mine still trying to catch up. Maya nodded. Your name's on at least 3 LLCs. One's tied to a cleaning business that's never actually done a day's work. The others are listed under holdings, all tied to Derek's firm. The addresses? Mailboxes in Arizona. Classic laundering shells. I felt my temples throb. So let me get this straight. Derek helped her funnel money. Under my name. Maya's eyes were hard. She used your trust in him the same way she used your trust in her. And they made sure you stayed blind. The fake accounts. The story about me. They buried the truth so deep, even you wouldn't go looking. I didn't, I admitted, the shame stinging. I never thought to. Because you were a decent man who believed he had a decent wife. The thing is, when you realize you've been betrayed, it's not just the pain. It's the stupidity that hurts worst. The way you sat there, smiling at family dinners, paying the bills, handing over receipts without a second thought, while they smiled, plotted, and quietly carved your life apart. I opened the next folder. It was Evelyn's travel log. Maya had marked the trips that didn't match her calendar, spa weekends that were actually flights, business meetings that ended in hotel suites with Derek. There was a photo from 3 years ago, a beach in Turks and Caicos, Evelyn in a sun hat, Derek shirtless, holding a glass of something tropical, her hand on his chest. The timestamp? Valentine's Day. That was the year I got food poisoning, remember? She said she went on a wellness retreat for clarity. I remember texting her from the bathroom floor while sweating bullets and sipping Gatorade. And she was sipping imported rum while pressing up against my best friend. The rage came slowly, not as a fire, but a cold current crawling through my spine. My knuckles whitened around the edges of the file. I want to know everything, I said again, steadier this time. I want every account, every lie, every mile they've flown on my dime. I want to know who else knew. Lawyers, accountants, family. Maya nodded. That's why I came. I looked at her then, not just as the child I never got to raise, but the ally I never saw coming. A piece of Evelyn's past that refused to stay buried. Do you want revenge? I asked her. Her mouth twitched. No, she said. I want truth. And I want her to feel it. Same here. I wasn't going to throw plates. I wasn't going to scream. That's not how Evelyn would fall. Not someone who built lies as neatly as spreadsheets and smiles. She'd fall in silence. Collapse under the weight of the perfect image she built. Publicly, precisely, and without a whisper of warning. I'll need copies of everything, I said. And we'll need someone who knows how to dig deeper. I already made some calls, she replied. There's a guy, digital forensics, used to work IRS fraud cases. I told him it was a job about stolen identity and hidden marital assets. I laughed bitterly. Not even a lie. She pulled out a flash drive. Every file, every photo, every GPS ping from her phone for the last year. Derek's too. You track her phone? I cloned it when I broke in last time. I blinked. You really are her daughter. Biology's a bitch, she said with a smirk, though there was no joy in it. I stood and walked to the office window. From there, I could see the garden Evelyn had planted last spring. Tulips. Her favorite. She always said they reminded her of second chances. I guess it was time to show her what mine looked like. The thing about betrayal is that once you see it, once you know, you start spotting it everywhere. Like mold hiding in the corners or rot under fresh paint. And now that I'd peeled back Evelyn's mask, the stench of deception was everywhere. Her perfume, her phone calls, her sudden aversion to intimacy disguised as stress. That night, after Maya left with a promise to return in the morning, I sat in that office, the room I was never supposed to enter, and stared at Evelyn's carefully curated world. The paperwork, the passwords, the burner phone she never imagined I'd find. She'd built a kingdom of secrets right under my nose. And I had handed her the bricks. There was a drawer in the desk, locked. I jimmied it open with a flathead screwdriver from the garage, hand steady. Inside was a black leather ledger. Real old school. No encryption. Just pen on paper. Page after page of entries. Names. Codes. Dates. Payments. It was a record of every dollar she'd moved. Each transfer had a label. Winter. Foundation. W2/Beach. St. Haven. Civic Drop. Some of the names meant nothing. But one stuck out. Karen. $8,500. January 2018. Hush retainer. I read that line 3 times. Karen. As in Karen Walsh. Our former babysitter. She'd worked for us back when Maya would have been around the same age. She quit suddenly. Said she was moving in with a boyfriend in Oregon. Never sent a forwarding address. Turns out she wasn't moving. She was paid to disappear. $8 grand. Hush retainer. Like Evelyn had written it on a dry cleaning receipt. I opened the file labeled Maya 2003 to 2006 again and skimmed the reports. At the back, there were receipts from a private social worker. One of them was for Karen's address at the time. Evelyn had used her. Probably paid her to get Maya placed into a home quickly and quietly, off the radar. And when the guilt started scratching at her conscience, or maybe Karen threatened to talk, Evelyn cut her a check and pushed her off the chessboard. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just fraud. It wasn't just adultery. This was orchestration. Every move planned. Every lie threaded into the next like some kind of financial opera built on blood money. My phone buzzed. It was Maya. Maya. Just left the forensic guy's place. He's in. Says your name's buried under a shell company linked to 3 real estate purchases. Evelyn signed on your behalf. Forged. You own a condo in Miami, a rental in Scottsdale, and a lake house in Vermont. Didn't know you were so fancy. I stared at the text for a long time. 3 properties. Bought with my name. With my credit. With my trust. I responded. Me? What else does he need? Maya. Copies of all your ID. Signatures. Any old tax docs. We need to show she's forged. He's working on a full asset trail. Me, what's his price? Maya, free. Says it's personal. Evelyn bankrupted his sister's business 5 years ago. Of course she did. Of course. Evelyn always said business was just poker and heels. She didn't bluff unless she already had your cards in her purse. Now she was about to find out I was playing my own hand. I copied every file onto 2 encrypted drives. One for me, one for the forensic guy. I uploaded a cloud backup to an anonymous email I'd created years ago when I considered starting a side business. Back then it was just a passing thought. Now it was insurance. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with a bottle of scotch I'd been saving for a promotion I never got because Derek told Evelyn to keep me focused on the home front. I found that little note in her files too. They had plans for me. Turns out, I wasn't the man of the house. I was the asset. The next morning, Evelyn walked through the door like a woman who had the world in her purse and nobody looking behind the curtain. She smiled, kissed my cheek, complained about traffic, told me Derek's new podcast episode was brilliant and I should listen to it. All I could think was, I wonder if he recorded it with your perfume still on his collar. I smiled back, said I had to run a few errands. She offered to make dinner. I told her I'd love that. She didn't know I'd be meeting Maya. Didn't know I'd be sitting across from the forensic guy, watching the final map of her empire being drawn. The condo in Miami was under a shell company tied to a law firm that also managed Derek's family trust. The lake house in Vermont, used for off-site retreats, paid for by a consulting fund tied to my own social security number. They stole from me using me. But I wasn't going to burn it all down. No, Evelyn loved control too much. So I was going to give it back to her. Just not in the way she expected. You ever see a spider unravel its own web? That's what I had in mind when I sealed the envelope. No return address. Just her name in neat block letters. Evelyn Holloway. Private and confidential. Inside, a single sheet of paper. No threats. No accusations. Just a high-resolution printout of the birth certificate. The one that named her as Maya's mother and left the father line blank. It was circled in red ink, like a teacher grading her own cruelty. Below that, I printed one line. Lies age poorly. Yours are nearly expired. I mailed it on a Tuesday. By Thursday evening, she'd received it. I didn't have to ask. I saw it in her eyes when I walked through the door that night. The subtle twitch at the corner of her mouth. The way she closed the laptop a little too quickly. How she greeted me like she'd forgotten how to fake affection. Everything all right? I asked, hanging my keys on the hook like every other day in the last 22 years of my scripted, unsuspecting life. Fine, she said too fast. Just work stuff? Anything I can help with? I added, my tone casual. She shook her head. No, nothing that needs your attention. I almost laughed. Nothing that needs your attention. I had never paid enough attention. That was the whole game. She kept the surface polished, so I wouldn't think to check the foundation. And now, that foundation was cracking, quietly, methodically. That night, after she went to bed, I logged into the dummy Gmail account Maya and I had created. The forensic guy, Simon, had uploaded a full file. Inside, bank statements, routing numbers, emails between Derek and Evelyn that would make a divorce attorney's eyes light up. There was one that really stood out. From Derek at ArcadiaFunds.com to Evelyn.Holloway@ProtonMail.com. Subject, backdoor is clean. Date, March 12, 2021. Used Mark's SSN on the Vermont house. Rerouted 2.5% through Karen's LLC to buffer the paper trail. No flags. Signed the docs using that old signature form from the 2007 tax return. You're officially off the books. Happy anniversary, babe. Mark. That was me. My wife's, babe, was congratulating her for laundering money using my identity. On our wedding anniversary, no less. That email was a bullet. Fired, but frozen in time. I wasn't going to shoot back just yet. Not directly. No, I had a better target for now. Derek. See, Maya had been smart. She hadn't just cloned Evelyn's phone, she'd flagged her location pings. And it turned out, Derek's studio, the place where he recorded his Finance Bro podcast every Thursday morning, was listed under a fake company name. The lease was in my name. Yep, my credit, my signature, my business. They even claimed the studio's equipment as a deduction on my taxes 2 years ago. And Simon had filed a whistleblower report with the IRS under an alias. I smiled as I watched the email confirmations roll in. First from the IRS, then from a journalist Maya had contacted, who was looking into identity theft and high net worth divorces. Said it'd make a great case study. Derek's name was flagged in several shell company filings across 3 states. But here's the thing about predators, they don't notice the slow leak. Not right away. The next morning, Derek posted a photo on social media of himself grinning in front of a microphone. Caption: New episode drops at 3 p.m. We talk passive income, trust, and staying 2 steps ahead. 2 steps ahead? Buddy, you're 10 behind and face down in the mud. Maya sent me a text that afternoon. Maya, check his podcast site. Down for maintenance. LOL. Me, Karma's clock started ticking. Maya, Evelyn's next. Got the social worker's file. She forged a death certificate for me in 2001. I have a copy. Me, how soon can we send it? Maya, already did. Registered mail. Should arrive Monday. I put down the phone and just sat there for a minute. It had begun. No screaming matches. No dramatic confrontations. Just paper cuts that would bleed her dry. One revelation at a time. Until she was left with nothing but the truth she buried so deep, she thought it would rot unseen. But rot has a smell, and I was done pretending I couldn't smell it. That night, Evelyn barely touched her wine. She stared at me across the table like she was trying to read a language she'd forgotten. What? I finally asked. She blinked. You just seem different. I smiled. Maybe I'm finally paying attention. She smiled back, weak, unsure, and looked down at her plate. I looked at her too. At the woman who stole my daughter. At the woman who drained my life with a kiss on the cheek and a knife in the back. And all I could think was, you're about to learn how it feels to lose everything you thought you had under control. Monday morning broke slow and gray, like the sky itself was holding its breath. Evelyn always did the mail. One of her routines. Said it gave her control over the clutter. I used to think it was harmless, just another of her quirks. Now I knew it was about interception. About guarding what slipped through the cracks. But today, she missed something. The envelope was plain. Postmarked out of state. Addressed to Mrs. Evelyn Holloway, handwritten, but in a style so formal it almost looked robotic. It sat innocently with the junk mail and grocery coupons on the hallway table. She didn't spot it right away. I did. She was upstairs when I picked it up, sliced the top edge clean with my pocket knife, and slid out the contents. 3 pages. 1. A certified death certificate. Issued in 2001. Cause of death, complications during childbirth. Name, Emily Holloway. Mother, Evelyn Grace Holloway. Father, listed as not available. Signature? Forged. Sloppy. One I didn't recognize. Filed just a week after I left for that business trip all those years ago. 2. A notarized affidavit from a retired social worker. Name, Yvonne Carr. She'd worked at the State Placement Center in Denver. Testified that she was contacted off-record to process a healthy infant as an anonymous ward of the state. The child had no recorded birth certificate, just a death cert provided by the mother. Yvonne claimed she questioned it, but Evelyn had pull. New people. Said the child's father was dangerous and out of the picture. 3. A letter. From Maya. Typed, but ice cold. You erased me. You buried me with lies and told the world I was gone. You told him I died. You told the state I didn't exist. But I'm still here. And I remember everything. I slid the pages back in, sealed the envelope again, and placed it back on the table. Let Evelyn open her own grave. She came down around 10. Yoga pants, tight bun, sipping her kale smoothie. Always playing the role of suburban royalty like life came easy and clean. She saw the envelope halfway through a sip. Froze. I watched her from the kitchen. She picked it up. Read the return address. Carr Legal Services. And for the first time in a long while, I saw it. Fear. The real kind. The kind that sinks into a liar's bones when the truth shows up wearing the face of the past they thought they'd buried. She didn't open it right away. just stood there, like the paper might burn her fingers. You okay? I asked, walking in slowly, keeping my face neutral. She startled, covered it with a fake cough. Yeah, just, surprise letter. From who? She stared at it. Don't know. Lied again. Reflexively. Then she made the mistake of opening it right in front of me. I watched the color drain from her face as her eyes scanned the certificate. She reached the second page, Yvonne's affidavit, and her hands started shaking. By the third, Maya's letter, her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. Her gaze lifted, met mine. I held it. I said nothing, because I didn't need to say anything. Everything was written in that envelope. Everything she spent years hiding, forging, destroying. The whole empire built on ashes, now revealed to be smoke and mirrors. You have something to say? I finally asked. She tried. I could see it. The gears in her mind scrambling for a script. A backup story. A sob story. Some new angle to soften the blow. But nothing came out. She dropped the pages. Then did the only thing she knew how to do when she wasn't in control. She walked out of the room. Not a word. Not a tear. Just silence. Later that night, I found her in her office. Sitting at her desk, glass of wine untouched. Staring at her computer screen like it might offer her an escape. You know, I said from the doorway, I used to believe everything you told me. Even the things that didn't make sense. She turned slowly. Her expression was blank. But her eyes, they were wild. I thought I was protecting you, she whispered. From your own daughter? Her lips quivered. From myself. I laughed. It wasn't kind. It was cold and sharp and tired. No, Evelyn. You weren't protecting me. You were using me. You were hiding from the one person who could actually love you unconditionally. And you chose a lie. Over and over again. She stood, hands clenched. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. You already took it all. I walked away, leaving her in that room she kept so pristine. Surrounded by her trophies, her spreadsheets, her walls built on fraud. She thought burying Maya would keep her secrets safe. But Maya wasn't dead. She was watching. And the next chapter? It wouldn't be private. Because I had forwarded those documents to my lawyer. And soon, Evelyn's lie would go on record in court. By Wednesday, Evelyn had moved from denial to desperation. I saw it in how she hovered near her phone. Saw it in how she stopped locking her office door, not because she trusted me, but because she was scrambling for a plan and didn't want to waste time with keys. She started asking odd questions. Have you talked to Maya again? What did your lawyer say? Are we okay? We. As if there was still a we to salvage. Like the truth hadn't come through the front door wearing her face and calling me Dad. By Thursday, a letter arrived from my attorney. We were officially filing a petition to reopen a sealed family court record, the one Evelyn never told me existed. Turns out when she declared Maya dead, she didn't just forge the certificate. She filed a claim with the court that no father was present or identifiable, barring me from any parental rights. In the eyes of the law, I was a ghost. A father who'd never existed. Until now. Maya and I sat down with my lawyer, a bulldog of a woman named Claudia Reese, who had a memory like a steel trap and zero tolerance for people who lie with a smile. She looked through the files, nodding like she'd seen this kind of thing before, but then she paused at the forged death certificate. Whoever signed this, she said, tapping the bottom of the page, used a medical license number that doesn't exist. That's a felony on its own. Can we prove Evelyn submitted it? I asked. Claudia smiled. Not yet. But I'm very good at yet. That Friday, we filed for a full investigation. The court date came quicker than I expected. Maybe it was the gravity of the accusation. Maybe it was Claudia's ironclad language in the filing. Either way, the hearing was scheduled for Tuesday morning family court, County Division 2B. And Evelyn was served. Tuesday arrived cloudy and cold. The kind of morning that tastes metallic in the back of your throat. I wore the suit she gave me for our anniversary 5 years ago. Funny how something picked by your betrayer could still make you feel strong. Maya met me outside the courthouse. She wore black. Nothing flashy. Just simple, clean, sharp. But it wasn't the outfit that silenced the courthouse lobby. It was the fact that she walked in alive. A woman the system said was dead. A woman whose own mother had tried to erase her, now walking straight into the courtroom with her chin held high. Evelyn showed up 10 minutes late. Alone. Hair perfect. Glassy eyes. That step-forward smile cracked at the edges. Her gaze landed on Maya, and I swear, for a fraction of a second, her entire soul fell out of her face. And Maya? Didn't flinch. We took our seats. The judge entered. Papers shuffled. Claudia stood. Your Honor, we are here today to petition for the reopening of sealed adoption and ward of state records due to newly uncovered fraudulent documentation submitted by the biological mother of the petitioner. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, peered down at Evelyn. You were the sole custodial parent listed on the birth record? Evelyn stood. Yes, Your Honor. And you reported the child deceased in 2001. Yes, that's correct. The judge flipped the certificate. Do you recognize the signature? Evelyn hesitated. It's difficult to say. It was so long ago. Claudia stood. We have evidence that the license number used on this certificate belongs to a retired veterinarian in Kansas, not a licensed physician in this state. We also have testimony from the social worker who placed the child without any valid death record, under orders from Mrs. Holloway. The judge's eyebrows rose. That's a serious accusation, Counselor. Yes, Your Honor, Claudia said. One we're prepared to prove. But more importantly, Maya Holloway is alive. And her father, Mr. Mark Holloway, was intentionally omitted from all documentation. His parental rights were denied under false pretense. The courtroom was dead silent. Evelyn looked like she wanted to crawl out of her own skin. Her fingers clutched her purse so hard, I half expected it to pop like a balloon. The judge turned to her. Mrs. Holloway, do you deny filing this certificate? I believed it was correct at the time. Liar. She couldn't even say it with conviction. Maya stood up. Her voice didn't shake. I remember the woman who dropped me off at that place. I remember her face. Her voice. The way she told me to be a good girl and not cry too much, because Daddy doesn't know, and he won't ever. The judge turned to her. Are you saying your mother knowingly abandoned you and falsified legal documents to hide your existence? Yes. Her voice was steel. The judge took a long pause. This matter is no longer civil, she finally said. This is criminal. I'm referring this to the DA's office for immediate review. Evelyn made a sound. A gasp, maybe, but the court officer was already stepping behind her. You'll be contacted regarding further proceedings, the judge said, eyes narrowing. For now, this hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. Maya turned to me. I looked at her, and for the first time since this whole damn storm began, I felt free. The day after the courtroom exploded into consequence, Evelyn went silent. Not just quiet, strategically silent. Her car never left the driveway. No yoga class. No client calls. No smoothies. Just her, pacing the halls like a general with no army left to command. I figured she was calling lawyers, spinning stories, or maybe staring at her reflection, trying to find the version of herself that hadn't been exposed. But while she buried herself in damage control, Derek's house of cards collapsed, publicly. It started with a freeze notice from the IRS. Simon, our forensic guy, sent it to me with a simple text. Simon, your boy Derek just got flagged. They froze 3 of his LLC accounts. Equipment fund, rental shell, and the studio consulting fake company. All tied to your SSN. Me. Beautiful. What happens next? Simon, they audit. They dig. They gut him. Turns out Derek was as reckless with taxes as he was with friendship. His podcast gear, claimed as medical research equipment on a grant application. His fake consulting business, writing off luxury hotels as client development. He even listed Evelyn as a marketing subcontractor on a trust fund for a shell corporation in my name. And someone had reported him. Someone anonymous. With perfect documentation. By noon, Derek's podcast website was taken offline. By evening, his business accounts were frozen. The next day, the IRS came knocking. I watched it unfold from a coffee shop across town. Maya sent me live updates like she was reporting from the front lines. Maya, they just boxed up his office equipment. He tried to explain it away. They weren't listening. Maya, Derek's wife, just showed up. Didn't know about Evelyn. Or the money. Maya called him a bargain bin sociopath in front of 2 federal agents. Iconic. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not because this was funny. It wasn't. It was years of my life, my trust, stolen and warped. But this was vindication. The slow, silent justice of watching someone's mask peel off in the daylight. And it was only getting better. 2 days later, I got an envelope in the mail from a law firm I didn't recognize. Inside, a copy of Derek's desperate attempt at settlement. He was trying to move his remaining assets, what little the IRS hadn't touched, into an emergency trust. The catch? He wanted my approval as the co-beneficiary of the studio property he bought using my stolen identity. You read that right. He wanted me to sign off on letting him keep half of a studio built on my name. I handed the envelope to Claudia, my lawyer. She didn't say a word. She just laughed once, dry, unimpressed, then slid the letter into a folder marked civil action, identity theft, and restitution. That same day, Evelyn tried to call me. First once, then again, then 5 more times in the span of an hour. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked upstairs, opened her office, sat at her desk, and pulled up her email. Still logged in. Of course it was. She trusted passwords like she trusted people only when they were convenient. There, in her inbox, was an email from Derek dated 2 months ago. Subject, Plan B, if Mark ever finds out. I've got a contact in Belize. If it goes sideways, we cash out the Miami condo, sell the lake house quietly through the Arizona Corp, and bounce. You can claim spousal mental cruelty and push for half in the divorce. Let him pay to silence the story. He won't fight. He's a lamb, Evelyn. That's why this works. I stared at that email for a long time. Lamb. That's what I was to them. The quiet husband. The provider. The fool too decent to fight back. I forwarded it to Claudia. Then to myself. Then I logged out. I went downstairs to pour a drink. And that's when Evelyn walked through the front door, shoulders tense, jaw locked, wearing that carefully neutral face she'd always used on the rare occasions guilt managed to crawl under her skin. We need to talk, she said. I didn't even turn to look. We passed that exit miles ago, I replied. Now you're just along for the ride. She hesitated. Mark, whatever Maya told you. I held up a hand. No, you don't get to spin anymore. I turned to face her, calm and clear. Your other partner is under investigation. Your death certificate stunt is going to the DA. And as for the Miami condo, the studio, the fake LLCs, they're all unraveling. Fast. She paled. Mark. No, I said, voice rising just slightly. You had a choice. You could have told me the truth 22 years ago. You could have told me 5 years ago. You could have told me yesterday. But you lied. Repeatedly. And now, I stepped closer. Now you get to watch everything fall apart. Just like I did when you told me my daughter was dead. Her mouth opened. Closed. No words came out. And that was the first time I saw it. Not fear. Not panic. Evelyn always cared about optics. The outfits. The curated holiday cards. The vague but impressive bio on LinkedIn. Consultant. Strategist. Philanthropic liaison. She called herself a public-facing professional, as if that somehow justified every polished lie that passed through her teeth, which made Maya's next move all the more devastating. It wasn't enough for Evelyn to be cornered in a courtroom. No. Now she was about to be named in public by the daughter she tried to erase. The reporter's name was Emily Tran. Young, sharp, relentless. Worked for a mid-size independent outlet that specialized in long-form investigative stories, The Compass. Maya had contacted her weeks ago. Quietly. Patiently. She didn't want a tabloid scandal. She wanted facts. Timeline. Documents. Receipts. And we had plenty. I wasn't sure she'd go through with it. Not because she was scared, but because Maya was careful. Measured. Not a single step out of place since the moment she rang my doorbell and dropped the nuclear truth in my lap. But when Emily called to confirm publication, Maya looked me in the eyes and said, She took everything from you. She tried to erase me. This isn't revenge, Dad. It's justice. The story dropped online at 7 a.m. on a Monday. The title? Dead on Paper, One Woman's Fight Against the Mother Who Erased Her. By Emily Tran, The Compass. It went viral in 4 hours. Within minutes, my phone blew up. Colleagues. Old friends. A couple distant cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Even my sister, who had always liked Evelyn a little too much, sent a text that simply read, Holy hell. I had no idea. Are you okay? The article spared no detail. It laid out Evelyn's forged death certificate for a healthy newborn. The social worker's testimony. Maya's years in the foster system, her name changed twice. Derek's involvement in the financial laundering, especially the fake LLCs tied to my identity. The courtroom bombshell, backed by documents. The affidavit from the IRS whistleblower that had helped unravel the web. And then there was this line, the one that gutted me more than anything Evelyn had ever done. I wasn't just abandoned, Maya says in the interview. I was written out. My existence was an inconvenience to their perfect life. They wanted a clean slate, and they used a lie to make it happen. But you can't bury the truth forever. Eventually, it knocks on the front door. God, she said that in my house. I had to walk out into the backyard and sit down on the steps just to breathe. The air was cold, sharp, real. My hands trembled, and not from the weather. It wasn't shame. It wasn't anger. It was grief for the decades we lost. But woven into that grief was pride. She wasn't broken. She was fire. Evelyn called me 12 times that day. I didn't answer once. That evening, Maya and I sat side by side in the living room, watching the story get picked up by national outlets. BuzzFeed, CNN Wire, local news anchors salivating over the socialite mom who faked her baby's death. Then the call shifted from Evelyn to her friends. One after another, mutual contacts started slinking away. Her charity board revoked her seat pending investigation. Her consulting contract was terminated with cause. Her favorite yoga studio posted a vague statement about family values and community trust and revoked her membership. And Derek? Well, he deactivated all his social media, and sources said his wife had taken the kids and moved in with her sister across state lines. By the time the sun went down, Evelyn's world wasn't just crumbling. It was evaporating. Maya turned to me, quiet, unreadable. "You okay?" she asked. I looked at her, the woman who should have grown up in this house, who should have learned how to ride a bike in our driveway, who should have called me dad long before the lie unraveled. "I'm still learning what okay looks like," I said. She nodded. "Same." We sat in silence for a while. No TV, no distractions, just the echo of a life that could have been, and the bitter comfort of knowing that the truth had finally found its voice. That night, I heard Evelyn's car pull into the driveway. I didn't move. She stood at the door, didn't knock, just stood there for 5 minutes, maybe waiting for a moment of mercy, or a crack in the armor. But she never got one. She left, and this time, I didn't care where she went, because she was the ghost now. She came back one more time, 3 days after the article went live, after the courtroom fallout, after Derek's empire was reduced to charred paper and unpaid taxes. Evelyn showed up on the front porch like a storm that had already spent itself, all wind and no water. I opened the door. Not for kindness, not for closure, but because I wanted to look her in the eye. She didn't speak at first. Her mouth moved like she'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror, but forgot the lines halfway through. No makeup, no polished mask. She looked older, smaller, like someone who knew the war was over and that she lost. "Can we talk?" she finally asked. I nodded once and stepped aside. She walked in like a stranger. Didn't touch anything. Didn't sit. Just stood there in the foyer, staring at the same hallway where Maya had first walked in and called me dad. Her voice was rough. "I didn't think she'd ever find you." I crossed my arms. "No, you didn't. That was the whole plan, wasn't it?" She winced. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." That made me laugh. Cold. Dry. Honest. "No? How was it supposed to be, Evelyn? I mourn our daughter for 20 years while you embezzle half my life behind my back with my best friend? Was that part of the Pinterest vision board?" I was scared. Of what? Me? Or the fact that your carefully managed illusion might crack if the truth showed up with my eyes and your smile? She looked away, jaw clenching. I gave her up because I thought I was protecting us. We were so young. Protecting us? I stepped forward. You don't get to use that word. You lied. Not just once. Not just to me. You lied every single day since you told me she died. I didn't think you'd stay if you knew the truth. And there it was. The truth inside the lie. It wasn't about fear. It was about control. She couldn't control what I'd do with the truth, so she killed it. On paper. In story. In every version of our marriage that came after. "You buried our child," I said, flat. "You forged a death certificate. You made sure I couldn't find her, and then you robbed me blind while you built a second life with a man I called my brother. I never loved Derek. You didn't have to. You just had to trust him more than me." That landed. She stepped back, eyes glassy. "I was broken," she whispered. "I didn't know how to stop lying." "You did," I replied. "You just liked the life the lie gave you." We stood there in the silence between two ruined people. Then she asked it, the question I knew was coming. "Is there anything left to save?" I looked at her. Not the woman I married. Not the con artist. Just the hollow frame that remained. "No," I said, "but you're free to try and save yourself." She nodded, slowly, like she already knew that was the answer. "I've been served," she said quietly. "They're filing charges." fraud, perjury, tax evasion, maybe more. You going to fight it? She shook her head. I'm tired of fighting, and I know I'll lose. She turned to go, and then on the threshold she paused. Is she okay? She asked. Maya. That was the only thing she said that didn't reek of self-preservation. I didn't smile. She's stronger than both of us, I said. You tried to erase her, but she came back smarter, fiercer, and she's building a life now. Without you. Because of you. Evelyn didn't cry, but something in her sank, and without another word, she stepped into the cold. 2 weeks later, I met Maya at a modest 2-bedroom home across town. She'd signed a lease that morning. A new start. Her name on the mailbox. A porch swing that creaked slightly in the breeze. Still want to do this? I asked her. She nodded. I want to build something honest. I want peace. I handed her the box. Photos. Childhood things I never got to give her. The baby blanket Evelyn told me she had thrown away. The little stuffed fox I bought on the trip I thought would make me a dad. She pulled it out and smiled. Not a big smile. Just enough to say this mattered. Then she looked at me. You know you don't have to do this alone anymore, right? I did. We weren't erasing the past. We were reclaiming it. One truth at a time. There's a strange quiet that follows a storm like the one Evelyn stirred. Not peace. Not relief. Just a different kind of tension, like the world's holding its breath, waiting to see what still smolders beneath the wreckage. Maya had moved into her new place. I visited every few days. Sometimes we talked about the past. Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we just sat, her drinking tea, me nursing black coffee with too many thoughts and not enough words. The trial date hadn't been set yet, but Evelyn was officially charged. Identity theft, forgery, fraudulent use of federal documents, perjury, tax evasion, and then came child endangerment, which hit her hardest. Because it wasn't about money. It wasn't about signatures. It was about Maya, the daughter she tried to delete. Her lawyer filed for a plea deal. The DA refused. This wasn't going to be swept under the rug with a fine and a teary apology. Too many eyes were watching now. Too many people had read Maya's story. Derek? He cracked within a week. Once the IRS froze his accounts, he turned on Evelyn so fast it probably gave her whiplash. He handed over every email, every false document, every late-night voice memo where Evelyn walked him through the next con. He gave her up like a bad investment. Coward, through and through. But the real surprise came wrapped in a manila envelope one morning, dropped off by Claudia. I didn't want to send this by email, she said. You need to see it in person. Inside? A letter Evelyn wrote 20 years ago. Never mailed. Never meant to be seen. It was addressed to me. _Mark. If you're reading this, then I wasn't brave enough to tell you the truth. I'm sorry. I've always been sorry. I should have told you what happened that night in the hospital. I didn't lose the baby. I gave her up. And not for the reasons you think. It wasn't just fear. It was because I found out something I didn't know how to live with. Something about Maya. She wasn't yours. I dropped the page. My throat dried up like I'd swallowed sand. Claudia waited. Silent. I picked the letter up again with shaking hands. There was someone before you. Someone I swore I left behind. I didn't know I was pregnant when we married. I told myself it didn't matter because you loved me, and I thought I could just start over. But when Maya was born, she looked nothing like you. And I panicked. I thought if you ever found out, you'd leave. And I couldn't handle that. So I let the hospital process her through a private contact. I told them she was stillborn. I told you she was gone. I buried her on paper because I didn't want her to unravel everything we had. I read it twice. Then I read it again. And something inside me didn't shatter, it calcified. She knew. She knew all along. And still, she let me grieve that child as mine. Still, she weaponized that lie to control, to embezzle, to cheat. Still, she let Maya grow up thinking no one wanted her. And now? Now she wanted forgiveness? Claudia didn't speak. She didn't need to. I folded the letter, put it in the envelope, and walked it straight to the fireplace. I didn't burn it out of rage. I burned it because that letter had no power over me anymore. She took my love. She took my trust. But she doesn't get my guilt. That evening, I met Maya for dinner. Just the two of us. A quiet diner on the edge of town. Over dessert, I told her the truth. She sat with it a long time. So, he's not my father? She finally asked. I shook my head. Biologically? No. But legally, that doesn't change what she did. And emotionally, I met her eyes. That's her call. She looked at me. That same guarded, calculating look she had when she first walked into my house. The same look Evelyn used to wear when she was lying. But on Maya, it was different. It wasn't deception. It was defense. You know, she said slowly, for a guy who's not my father, you've been more of a dad to me in 2 months than most people get in a lifetime. I felt something tighten in my chest. She smiled. Small. Honest. I don't care whose DNA is in my blood, she added. I know who's in my corner. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. Because maybe love isn't about where you come from. Maybe it's about who stands beside you when the lies fall apart.